Well, look, we have been petitioning on this. You have responded, and we will be delivering it to the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt this afternoon on behalf of over 270,000 of you who joined our Don't Kill Cash campaign.
Well, with more than 5 million adults in Britain still relying on cash, take note of that, Steve, the letter calls for laws to protect its status as legal tender and as a widely accepted means of payment until at least 2050.
Well, let's speak now to Don't Kill Cash advocate and fellow GB News presenter Nigel Farage. Good morning to you. And I suppose you are our case study in many ways this morning, Nigel, because you're a really good example of what can happen if you didn't have cash and then you're debanked. You'd be in a very difficult position.
Well, you couldn't live, could you? I mean, actually, having a bank account is rather like having water in your house or electricity. It is something that you can't live with out 21st century. But the real problem here is if we kill cash, not only do we wipe out lots of small traders all over the country, leaving them at the mercy of the card providers who charge ever higher percentages on their sales. But I mean, what, for example, if you're running a fish stall in a place without the internet? I mean, you've got no option but to take cash. And what I've seen with my debanking campaign is a very, very deliberate effort by the banks to drive cash out of the system. You go to your bank and try and withdraw a reasonably large sum of cash. They'll ask you what it's for. They may not let you do it. And more seriously, you go and try and pay cash into a bank, and they're now putting limits, monthly and yearly limits on what businesses can pay in. So once again, all of these changes might suit people in London, but it doesn't suit the little man and woman outside of London. Longer term, my biggest fear is this. From 2030, we will have in this country a form of central bank digital currency. Rishi Sunak and the government are fully in favour of this. They're actively recruiting people right now. If we get to that, the state will be able to control how we spend our money, and that would be a serious loss of freedom. So for lots of reasons, keeping cash as legal tender makes sense. And I think really, for a channel like ours that's just 2 years old, to have gathered over 250,000 signatures in short order tells you it's a real issue.
Steve, what strikes me with all of this, Nigel, is the idea, and we know, because, I mean, look, we all know that what we're about as a channel is about hearing all voices, all perspectives, and having a bit of respect for people that we don't actually agree with. And with all of this is about choice. It's freedom. You may not, like Steve, who's emailed in, he may not want to use cash, but if other people do, then it just, quite frankly, should be allowed.
Well, of course, and I think we are very good, actually, Stephen, at allowing all sides of an argument, onto our screens and throughout our debates. We're really good at providing that kind of balanced debate. Yes, it is about choice, and we're living in a country increasingly where choices are being taken from us. If we go the whole hog, if we go cashless, if we go central bank digital currencies, government will start to make choices for us, how we can spend our money. And it's already happening. I've had people write to me with NatWest accounts who've had their accounts closed down because they've been transferring money through Coinbase, an FCA, legitimate company, into cryptocurrencies. So already banks beginning to tell us what we can and can't do. So this really is about choice in every way.
Yeah, and, aside from the banking issue, there's so many strands to this, aren't there, Nigel? I mean, we've had emails in this morning from people saying, I prefer to use cash because I get a sense of just how much I've spent. You can see a physical reduction as you spend it, unlike when you're tapping in and out. And there's also the age discrimination issue. A lot of people just simply aren't in the digital world that everybody's expected to live in, and it excludes a portion of society.
Yes, I mean, we all talk about inclusion. Endlessly talk about inclusion. Well, you're quite right. What about older people? And what about those who haven't got bank accounts? Over 1 million people haven't got bank accounts, haven't got credit cards. So they absolutely rely on cash. There's no question about that. I mean, look, I really think we've struck a chord. Of course, we listen to people with different points of view. But the point about knowing how much money, if you're shelling over the £20 notes in a pub to buy a round of drinks, you think, crikey.
Yeah.
You tap it on a card. At the end of the month, you think, no, I couldn't possibly have spent that. And there are also little practical things, niceties in life, like How would you tip the postman at Christmas if we lived in a cashless society? There are lots of little things like that where cash is still very convenient.
Yeah, no, very good point, well made. Just a quickie, Nigel.
Yeah.
If this gets discussed by Parliament, how do they argue against it? How would the government argue against it? Because actually, it just seems common sense, doesn't it, to say, we'll hold on to it for the next 25 years.
The argument against it is very clear. They will argue money laundering. Now, look, we know there is an international drugs trade worth tens of billions of dollars every single month. But everything we put in place through anti-money laundering laws, through banks checking carefully on what cash we put in and take out, all it does is affect the innocent. None of it has stopped the big international money launderers. The whole thing has been a sledgehammer to miss a nut, but that is the argument that they would use.
Great
Nigel,
to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.